It turns out that in Mexico, there will be a march this November 15th by Generation Z. This march is inspired by the revolution in Nepal and uses Luffy's flag, the skull flag from One Piece. This march is planned for Mexico's main cities. As they mentioned, Generation Z already plans marches in every capital city in Mexico. Claudia Scheinbaum doesn't know what else to do anymore. The problem with this march, at least if we focus on what happened in Nepal, is that its goal was the removal of the president. That is, to remove you as president, to oust you. And that's a very big problem for someone like Claudia Sheinbaum and the government of Mexico. That's why they've been taking somewhat desperate measures, like, for example, making up marches. A group of about 300 people went out to protest and claim that they were the authentic movement of Generation Z and that this was the real march. And they started saying all kinds of crazy things. They had communist flags, Palestinian flags, but not a single Mexican flag. Here we can see that they had a communist logo and on the other side an Antifa logo. Obviously, these were people put there by the government of Mexico. That's the reality. And they're so shameless that they even carried banners like this one. Wanted, Ricardo Salinas Pliego. Pay your taxes already. Just imagine that. For those unfamiliar or not from Mexico, Ricardo Salinas Pliego is a Mexican businessman who is the #1 enemy of the current government, of the current administration. It's not organized crime. It's not the criminals. No. It's a businessman. That's the #1 enemy of all these people. That's why when you see something like this, you immediately know that these people were put there by the current government. That's the reality. This is a fake march, so you might wonder what their goal was and why they staged a fake demonstration. They did it with this goal in mind.
Today was the Generation Z March, 300 people. And there were also those who were supporting the Palestinian people, the commentators. There was an agreement not to go to the Zocalo. I didn't see anyone stopped, but later learned there was an agreement not to go. They were preparing a tribute concert for Juan Gabriel. They wanted to go through. There are images of them causing damage in some stores, looting. In the historic center. So how has it been? There's always people like that coming in. Riffraff at the protests. Legitimate ones from the people. The truth is they don't have popular support. They're calling for another protest. There's a second call with all the media behind it for 8 days from now.
You just heard Fernandez Noroña, a senator from Mexico from the political party Morena. And basically, what he's doing is taking advantage of this fake protest to do two things. First, to divide and say, no, this is the real protest. And the second goal is to say that since only 300 people showed up to this fake march, to this march organized by his own political party, well, it actually lacks popular support. Nobody cares about the movement.
Ricardo Salinas Pliego invites you to join Generation Z's protest on November 15. Will you attend?
Of course not. He thinks he can connect with Generation Z and young people, but he doesn't represent us. That's why we're here marching, to show that we make our own march, not the one they hijacked, not the one they took away from the people, and that they want to turn it into their movement.
Hey, but Alessandra Rojo de la Vega, a supposedly young political leader, is also calling us. She's supporting them. Wouldn't you welcome Alejandra Rojo de la Vega to this protest and to the young women you'll see later on?
No, because they didn't call us. We called ourselves, the collective, the people, the youth in the universities, in the streets. We came on our own. No one asked us or is paying us. We're here without breakfast on a Saturday.
My final question, would you send a message to Salinas Pliego?
Just pay up already.
There you have it, clear and firm. Thank you, brother. That's the message to Ricardo Benjamin Salinas Pliego. Just pay up. You want security? Then pay your taxes. We're going to keep interviewing the people who showed up today. Come with me.
Do you see that? Couldn't be more fake. Nobody knows where those people came from. But anyway, they're telling us here, Pay attention. There was a so-called march today in Mexico City pretending to be Generation Z, when in reality they were thugs from the Communist Party, financed by the government itself. From now until November 15th, they're going to try everything possible to discredit the protest. I totally agree. That's what's going to happen. And it's already happening. Please pay attention to the following. Generation Z is getting ready to raise their voice in Monterrey. Young people are calling for a protest this November 15th at the Macro Plaza in a demonstration that aims to make their stance visible on the issues that will shape the country's future.
Hi, if you're from Monterrey, you have to listen to this. On November 15, we'll gather at the Macro Plaza at 3 p.m. to protest Morena and demand their removal from power. Remember that we all have to unite as a country. Otherwise, this won't be possible. Don't miss it.
I'm going to ask you a question that seems easy, but you'll see it's not so simple. Do you think it's a good idea to remove Morena from power right now, to get them out as soon as possible? I'm not so sure about that, and please let me explain why. I'm fully aware that the sooner you get them out, the less damage they'll do to the country. That's pretty obvious and evident. However, there's a problem. And that's that there's still a huge and gigantic percentage of the Mexican population that continues to support Morena. And also, there's another detail. There isn't a real opposition. There isn't a person who can take power right now and offer something different from what the opposition used to offer. And this is playing with fire. Let me remind you, we are in a scenario where Morena continues to have a lot of support from millions of Mexicans. There are millions of people in Mexico who support and justify any decision made by Morena, even though many times it doesn't make any sense, even though many times it goes against their own interests. However, I am realizing that as days, weeks, and months go by, the frustration keeps growing more and more and more, and that's not a minor issue. I think that if someone, for example, tried to stage a coup against Morena right now, I think it would be quite premature. I'm saying this with complete honesty. I even think it would be counterproductive. Just like April 11, 2002, when Hugo Chavez was overthrown in a coup in Venezuela. They removed Hugo Rafael Chavez Frias from power in Venezuela. Just imagine that. What was the problem? Even though the population was already divided, even though there was already a lot of social exhaustion, even though there were already millions of people in Venezuela against Chavismo, it still wasn't enough. Hugo Chavez still had enormous popular support. A huge amount of support from the Venezuelan people. So let's say that this coup d'etat was very, very early and ended up being counterproductive, because obviously Hugo Chavez returned to power and did so stronger than ever. But anyway, I'd really like to know what you all think about this last part. Do you think it's a good idea to remove Morena from power as soon as possible? I'd really honestly love to know your opinion, because obviously this is just my opinion and I could easily be wrong. I'm just analyzing a historical context, and I think we need to be very careful with that. We need to look at the whole picture. If there's one thing I can tell you, it's that I believe the current government will fall under its own weight. Just look at them. They're desperate. They're raising taxes everywhere. The debt is increasing. The country is stagnant. Insecurity is out of control and can't continue. But anyway, I'd really like to know what you think and what your opinion is about all this. Are you going to the big march on November 15th? That's the real one, not the nonsense these people invented. The true march is November 15th. I'm asking you, are you going to go? And if you do go, please take precautions. I think they're going to try to infiltrate people to tarnish the protest, to tarnish the demonstration. We know how they operate, so please be careful. If you go, take precautions. Thank you and see you next time.